Hi, welcome to Slick Witty Flying. Today we're going to make a purple fat boy. And to be honest with you, I didn't really have a name for this fly. It's just a cool fly. It incorporates a couple of different features from flies that we often tie. So it's just a good fly. And enjoying a cocktail. So what do I have? I'm using a SC15 hook. And the reason I'm using the SC15, it's a size 3.0. But I don't need a lot of shank for material for this hook. So this is a nice wide gap. This is a nice wide gap hook that doesn't have a super long shank and it's just like the perfect size hook for this fly. In the tail, I'm gonna have a couple of these beautiful Grizzly purple hackle feathers, 4 of them actually. And I'm gonna incorporate them with a little bit of Krystal flash. For Krystal flash, I have a strand of this black and silver, which I've already pre-prepped, a strand of regular silver, and 1 strand of red just to give it a little color. Then as I'm working up the body, I'm going to put a couple of turns of this sparkle brush. It's an EP sparkle brush in purple, which is great. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me a little bit of girth in the middle for the craft fur. I have pre-prepped craft fur. I did a video a while back of how I make these like a craft fur homemade brush, like a dubbing loop. And I'll put the link to that video in the description below, but I pre-prepped so we don't waste any time. And then I'm just gonna finish off the front with a little bit of bucktail. In the craft fur, in this particular fly, I didn't put any flash at all in the craft fur. I felt like there was enough. But in the one I pre-prepped, I did put a little bit of Flashaboo in this one. The one we're gonna make is gonna have a little bit more flash. And then I'm using some large black bead chain. You know, I'm gonna give you another tip that I think I keep forgetting, large black bead chain. When I'm tying saltwater flies, I try to get stainless steel bead chain, or if I can't find stainless steel bead chain, then I'll use a painted bead chain. The painted bead chain doesn't survive nowhere near as well as the stainless steel bead chain. It starts to rust, but at least you'll get a little bit more use out of it. And that's just for people who are using this in the salt water. This particular fly, I'm tying for salt water, but man, this thing would be awesome for largemouth. You know, you just have to consider your colors and the size of the hook that you want. And make your fly size appropriate. But largemouth, smallmouth, pike, there's a ton of fish in the freshwater world that'll just destroy this thing. So I say we have another sip of our cocktail. Whoops. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And I'm gonna go ahead and change the camera angle and let's tie the fly. Okay, so here we are. It's gonna have a bit of a jigging action because of the bead chain and the UV resin. But that's a great action, nice fat body. Gonna push some water and get lots of bites. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing started. I'm gonna put a little bit of super glue on this shank, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the fly before we really get going, so we can give this a few seconds to set up. For thread, one thing that I didn't mention is I'm using Uni 220 denier in black. Any good strong thread is fine. I can't begin to stress enough that really these kind of flies, all these kind of flies that I tie, it really is only limited by your imagination. You could put silly legs. You can have all kind of color combinations. You can add less flash, more flash. I mean, there's all kind of things that you can do to make this fly more suitable for your conditions, your fishing, you know, whatever the case may be. So the sky's the limit. I'm gonna go ahead and put the bead chain on just to give this a little bit more time to set up. a lot of times you'll see me put the bead chain on first. Doesn't have to be. You know, these are all personal preferences. I don't think that, I'm not the kind of fly tyer, I should say, that is so hung up on doing things one way. And I think that it makes fly tying a little bit more fun when you're open to suggestions and open to trying new things. Alright, probably not quite set up yet with the glue, but we're going to go ahead and start anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and start with these hackle feathers. I'm going to go ahead and pull off all the fuzzies off the ends. We don't use those, so I just curl them off the stem, and then to not have a gigantic mess, once I have enough stem, I just kind of cut the rest off, and that's the way they look when I prep them. You know, this is the kind of fly that I'm gonna be throwing, you know, where like I'm fishing the mangroves, it's maybe low light, it's maybe a little bit darker water. I'm just trying to have a fly that's gonna push some water, make some vibrations, and be the appropriate size. That's really the key here. Is it should be size appropriate for the bait that's in your area. Alright, so we're putting the two feathers together, and now I'm just going to go ahead and present them at the back of the hook, couple of loose wraps, working up the stem a little bit, making sure that I like the way they look, that I like the way they're situated. I want these, even though I've been tying a ton of flatwings lately, I want these to be knife edge. And now I can cut off that tag. Didn't really end up the way I wanted it, but we're gonna live with it anyway. It's not like the end of the world if they don't end up perfect. Sometimes when they're not perfect is when you get the most action out of them. So now I'm prepping two more really quick. Could have done this before, but you know, I think it's important also that my videos reflect what it really is to tie. I mean, I can condense this into a 4-minute video, and I know that there are people who really enjoy those, and I've watched plenty of those short, quick videos, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure, you know, a lot of people who enjoy that. But I think it's also at the same time kind of important to show people what it really takes. Like, this fly really will take me, you know, a little bit more than 10 minutes if I wasn't talking. If I was just focused on tying, this fly would take probably between 10 and 15 minutes to tie. And I think it's cool that you guys get to see that. Just gonna get in here with my scissor and take off these tags carefully, if I can get it. Got it. Alright, so now it's Krystal Flash, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put the Krystal Flash on top. Even though I have bead chain, this fly is gonna ride hook side down. It just is a little bit heavy, the hook, and it just will. From the tank video that I showed in the beginning of this, I'm sure that you saw that it rides hook side down. But I still use the bead chain. I still like having it. So I've put on all that Krystal Flash that we spoke about, a little bit unevenly. And now I'm just going to go ahead and get it started. And we just kind of open it up a little. And that for me is perfect. a lot of people like when the Krystal flash is longer than the tail. I'm not really into that. I don't mind if it's similarly long to the end of the tail, but I don't necessarily like it to be as long as the tail. So now it's the brush, and this is a brand new brush that I'm just starting right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get my wire cutters out, because the metal tag end that comes with the brush when they're new, I find it to be way too long. So I'm going to cut it so that there's only about maybe 2 millimeters of that tag showing, because I don't really feel like I need to tie in more than those 2 millimeters. And now all I'm going to do, I'm going to use my rotary function, and I'm going to draw the fibers back. And we're not going to make a lot of turns here. It might be 3 turns, it might be 4. It's kind of, you know, how it looks when once I get to like a thickness, I guess is the only way to explain it, that I like, then I say, okay, that's where we stop. So now that's 2.5 rotations there. Now this is 3.5 rotations, and could probably stop right there. Yeah, I think that's plenty. So I'm just gonna capture the brush right there. Remember that the brush is wire, so again, wire cutters. Get in here, trying not to cut fibers. Perfect. And remember, if you ever thought that you didn't have enough, you can just tie the thing back on and give it a couple more turns. But I think it's plenty, because remember, we have flash now in the crafter as well. But that is just perfect. All right, slick that back a little. And now we need to make a dubbing loop. Gotta get my thread out of the way. Get a spinner. And I have this clip with pre-prepped black, this was black select craft fur and a little bit of Flashabou. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it carefully into my dubbing loop. Now I know that this is difficult to see, but I'm going to try and just maneuver it so that it's not too much beyond the dubbing loop, because the less that you have beyond the dubbing loop, the less clumpy this will be. And then we're just gonna spin this up, get it in there nice and hard, locked in, just like that. And now I'm gonna take a needle and I'm gonna go ahead and pick out craft fur that's trapped. The more you pick out now, the nicer this fly will look. And you're gonna lose a little bit of craft fur. I don't worry about that at all. There's plenty of craft fur on here. Perfect. So now I have picked out my craft fur. And again, like anytime I use a brush or a dubbing loop, I'm going to draw the fibers back. I'm going to use my rotary function again. And remember, you have a point of the hook. You see how I work it around the point of the hook. Just going to keep working it back. Ideally, I don't want to get to the dumbbell eyes. I want to keep this, I want to have a gap at the dumbbell eyes, because I'm going to put a little bit of bucktail on here. And I want to have a little bit of room for that bucktail. That came out pretty much exactly the way I want it. So I go under the eyes again, work my way back to that dubbing loop, and now making sure as much of this is forward as I can. And I go ahead and trap that dubbing loop. And now we can trim off the dubbing loop. And now again, the same as we did with the brush. You can use a needle, you can use a pick, you can do however you like to do, but you need to go ahead and dig out these trapped fibers. And that came out pretty nice. Really nice. This craft fur is going to have a lot of action. By using that sparkle brush, it's going to really help it from fouling too much. And just the whole way that this fly is being structured, it's going to really help this this craft fur from fouling. And craft fur really comes to life in the water. But now we're going to have a little bit of bucktail. And the reason for the bucktail is because I want this fly to push water, so I need the girth of this bucktail. Now, real quick, bucktail. So the lower on the bucktail, these fibers are more hollow, and they will flare more, where the tips are less hollow and give you nice straight bucktail type finishing, like clouds or minnow. So we're gonna take from the bottom, and I'm actually gonna take from the bottom and the back, because I want this thing to be like messy. I want this thing to get big and fluffy. So I didn't pre-prep any bucktail, because bucktail is messy enough as it is. So I'm probably gonna use 2 clumps, one on top, one on bottom. The clumps don't need to be really big at all. It's hard to explain, but basically I cut that amount, and now I'm going to come in here and take out all these little short fluffy, I don't know what you call them. You know, I've heard people call them all kind of different names, but I just call them the shorts. And I don't stack this, but I will try to make the tips be not crazy different. You know, the really long ones I'll pull out and restack, so it'll look something like that. So for a length, my length I would say is maybe a ½ inch beyond the end of the hook, or possibly, I guess a good way to describe it is maybe half the craft fur. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the hook side first. And there's my length again, and I don't really want it to be longer than the bead chain, and this will also help me to tie this in neatly. So I'm just going to go ahead and present this, a couple of loose wraps. Now you notice I have all of the bucktail on my side of the hook, and that is not a problem. You don't need to worry about that. So a couple of loose wraps, just making sure that I like where it is. And now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling on that bucktail. And now I'm going to get a needle, on a clean needle, and I want to make sure that I have bucktail on both sides of the hook. And now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. This side is easier to do, so I did the other side first. So I'm prepping the bucktail the exact same way. I'm going for the exact same kind of length. So I'm going to trim this up. Couple of loose wraps. Give it a little pinch. Make sure, working it with my fingers, making sure that I like where it's sitting. And now I can crank on that. And you see the way the bucktail just flares out. And that bucktail right there is going to give me some seriously good push through the water. It's going to make vibrations. Fish are going to feel this fly. Fish are going to know this fly is there. Which is what I want. That's the goal that I'm going for. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring my thread forward. A couple more wraps, just making sure that everything is nice and captured. Gonna go ahead and come under and back in front, and now it's just a whip finish. I'm gonna trim a couple little wild fibers so they don't get caught in my whip finish tool. Now I'm gonna whip finish. I'm gonna do a tiny bit of trimming with my scissor, and then it's UV resin. Perfect. Don't need to put another knot on because we're going to use resin. So what am I trimming? I don't want to trim these long ones. The only thing I want to trim are these little short ones right at the knot, because they'll make my UV resin not look so nice. Let me get a little bit more close scissor. Hi and welcome back. So still enjoying my cocktail. Fly turned out great. The only thing left to do here is a little bit of resin. I don't use a lot, it's just a little bit right on the knot. I'll put a little drop between the bead chain eyes, and that's pretty much it. It's really just to make this fly a little bit bulletproof. Not a lot to this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. This fly will sit in my windowsill like all my other flies. I use UV resin and just cure for a day because I'm not in any rush. And good luck catching, and see you on the next video.